Hello, everybody. My name is Zia Lennard. I am with R2M Solution. Thank you for your attendance today. We're excited to have the Circular Economy for the Built Environment paper session. We have 6 high quality presentations, and I'll quickly read through those before we get started. So first, we're going to start with Stephan Ott. His presentation is called Open Innovation Testbed for Bio-Based Construction Products for Envelopes of Nearly Zero Energy Buildings. Next, we have Domenico Perfido from R2M with Tools Assessment for Green Transition, part of the Nature for Cities project. After that, we have Laetitia Boucher from Interface presenting her sustainable strategy for a very innovative commercial solution. Next, we have the FiberEUse project presented by Dena Arabsolgar from Holonix, and it's called a circular IT platform to manage innovative design and circular entities. Next up, we have the DigiPrime project presented by Elena Mossali, and her title is Digital Platform for Circular Economy and Cross-sectorial Sustainable Value Networks. And finally, we have the CobBauge project, presented by Andrew Evans of Hudson Architects, and it's about low-tech, high-performance earth construction. So after each presentation, we'll have some time for questions and answers. Please do write them in the chat pane that you should see, and I'll direct those to the correct person. And then after Andrew, we'll have some time as well for additional questions. So please feel free to let us know. We're happy to answer. So with that, I won't waste any more of your valuable time, and I'll hand it over to Stephan Ott from the Technical University of Munich, presenting Open Innovation Testbed for Bio-Based Construction Products for Envelopes of Nearly Zero Energy Buildings. Take it away, Stephan.
Hello, everybody. I hope you can see my screen now. I switch to the presentation mode. And please give me a short feedback if everything is okay.
Yes, Stephan, we can see your screen.
Okay, perfect. So thank you very much, Zia, for the nice introduction. And yeah, as you heard, the title is about innovation. It's about construction products and related to nearly zero energy buildings. And I will present my short talk together with Uwe Kies, or he's a co-writer in this presentation. And yeah, we are going to show you and discuss you about our open testbed initiative, which is, let's say, loose collaboration between several European testbeds or testing facilities and approval bodies who are dealing with research and development of construction products, and also helping SMEs, industry companies to bring their products to the market and also certify and test and approve the products. So what's all about in this, let's say, very important, and also now with the new Green Deal really accelerating area of the nearly zero energy buildings and the related products, and what can we contribute to this. So there is a need of the large scale deployments of nearly zero energy buildings, and these buildings rely on marketable, affordable, and also flexible on-demand material-based solutions for energy and resource-efficient buildings. And we want to bring laboratory-based solutions together with the partners into a replicable level and upscale them to solutions that are attractive and profitable for real applications. We will also act on real building envelopes through actions in test beds and living labs. And that would create also, from our point of view, profound economic, social, and environmental impacts to show this in reality. And further on, we are, let's say, a group of experts which have deep and accurate material insight by using innovative technologies like digital twins, complemented with expertise in non-destructive testing, in advanced finite volume modeling methods, in digital material characterization, as well as cutting-edge virtual prototyping and pilot lines for additive manufacturing, robotic assembly, and industrial production. And some of these aspects I will show you in the next slides. So what is about this problem from the market, or from the first idea to the market, when we have an idea for a new product and want to bring this product to the market? So there are several issues we should consider, because it's not so easy to bring a product to the market. And also the steps from the first ideas until it's a real product and can be marketed are a very tough journey. And in this slide, I want also to show or highlight that it's also difficult to address the European market with this product, because although we have the single market, we still have these different gates, and we have to fit in these different gates, because there are some common standards or harmonized European standards for certain products, but not for all products. And there are also additional national requirements which came up and have to be fulfilled when the product is supplied in this national market. So when we follow this route, or when the manufacturer starts with this new product idea and wants to bring it to the market, he normally goes to the technical authorities of his country, and for this example, it's a German Institute for Construction Technology, and they give feedback on the requirements of this product to the manufacturer based on the harmonized European standards, so harmonized EN standards, or if there are no harmonized standards available for this type of product or for this category of product, there needs to be a European assessment document developed. And this document will be developed normally together with the testing facilities or the test beds, and then afterwards with this document, the manufacturer and the testing facility, they follow this routine which are laid out in this assessment document, and then they get finally to the technical approval, hopefully, which is then accepted by the technical authority, and then this product can also be marketed throughout Europe. And then there are further these national requirements, but these are controlled by the national technical authorities, and they are also laid down in the building codes, which have to be fulfilled when the building is renovated or new built. So you see also what different steps have to be done in these testing or fulfilling the requirements or approval of the requirements. So there is normally the test beds which do the testing and check the performance of the products. Then the product certification is done with an own division, which is separated from the test beds normally to avoid any conflict of interests. And then there is also follow-up production control of the product to ensure the quality of the product. How do we achieve now the replicable and upscalable product, which can really address the market and also can be sold throughout Europe? We want to focus, or our testbed is mainly focused on the bio-based materials. And the bio-based materials are important in this New Green Deal initiative, and also for the future climate change mitigation measures as a very important material group, because they can capture carbon by its nature, and it's also a material which can be produced, manufactured very easily. It's lightweight, and it's still strong, and you can make a huge bunch of products out of it. But let's say why we also join forces in this area is this product is a natural product, and therefore there's inhomogeneity and anisotropic properties of the material. And as you see in the right picture in the forest, so there's no tree who resembles another one exactly, and you see it also here in the detailed cross-section or cut of this log, that you have different properties throughout the entire diameter of this cross-section. So what we need here is also a quite deep insight into this material, good understanding, and therefore this group of experts is joining the forces to develop further with new tools and innovations the knowledge on this material, and how to bring this knowledge also into the market. I just want first to highlight again the very important issue of the carbon capture properties of this material, because when you look only at the forest here on the left-hand side, the system of the forest, you have already this carbon sequestration or this carbon capture by the growth of the plants, and then if they are not used, you have an output of this biogenic carbon. It's an emission. It's in the end the balance is zero, but there is these emissions. But when we continue and let's say use these some of the trees and make place for a new tree or new plants who can grow on this area, this new plant can capture carbon, and we can use this plant or the tree for producing material, manufacture and transform this raw material into useful products, and store still the lot of carbon of this material inside this material itself, if we consider that our input of carbon storage in the material is higher than the output for producing it in the building sector or in the product. And finally, at the end, we may have also an output if the material is burned. If not, and that's the aspect of the circularity which comes here in, if the material can be reused as a reused material, or it can be recycled as a secondary material and used in new products, then we still achieve another time span where we capture this carbon or keep this carbon in the material and do not release it. And therefore, the contribution of bio-based materials to the very fast climate mitigation measures is very high, and it's also shown in several very new publications, for example, by the Potsdam Institute for Climate Research and also other studies from IPCC, that this focus on bio-based materials can help us to mitigate climate change. As I said, also the product is very inhomogeneous, or the material is very inhomogeneous. So therefore, we have also to consider different, let's say, approaches to tackle this performance of the materials, the characteristics of the material, and also there are diverse, let's say, types of use of this material in different products with different other properties, because they are transformed not only once but several times. So what I want to lay out here, that we have to consider that there are natural products which are harvested, processed, and they have a given microstructure by nature, by their growth, and they have inherent properties which are not equal, because they are natural materials. but these are the natural products. And then we have, let's say, classical products, which are traditional processed, which are have an own microstructure because they are maybe out of particles from the natural product together with an artificial binder or compound material, and then it's here pressed in an homogenized material in these profiles here. And this material also has its characteristic properties, and it's still but it's still a plain material which is mass produced. And it has very often only one single function. Like here in this case, it's a load-bearing profile, for fixture of other stuff. And then we have a new development which is coming up by the new technologies of 3D printing or additive manufacturing, and these are, for example, these functional products. And these functional products are very often microstructure which is related to this printing process, to the manufacturing process, which is different from the way classic. We can apply nearly infinite range of properties to materials, and sometimes these are materials which are little compounds. Hello, can you still hear me? Because the message here that it's connection is lost.
I can hear you, Stephan, but at the end it was a bit not really great.
Okay, it was only a short interruption. Okay, then continue. Okay, so then we have these functional materials or functional products which are very specific in their way, how they are produced and how they are composed. And what we have to do is to understand the product properties. We also going to improve the product properties when we are transforming these natural products into classical products, because we want to get rid of these inhomogeneous properties. And further on, and that's the new development, is that we design product properties according to our needs. So we can make freeform structures which are strong and also heat insulating, and made out of a mono material, so a monolithic material, so without any other insulations. And that's just for an example. And to come from these natural material and products to these functional products, you need you need virtual prototyping, and you need also digital twins of this material where you have the characterization of these properties. And then when you want to improve this product performance, or you want to adjust this product performance, you have to optimize it. And this optimization task here, I just want to pick out now two examples here from this whole bunch, which is addressing, let's say, all three pillars of the sustainability. So by the certified performance, we let's say satisfy social equity by testing the performance for its load bearing capacity, for example, or for eco design measures. We try to increase or allow the environmental protection. And finally, also we address the economic viability to make a cost-effective or quick development possible, or we look for this Industry 4.0 production capabilities for this new product. And I now just want first to look at the yellow and the red part, so the development of the performance for the digital twin and the innovative manufacturing, and also the testing performance for virtual and standard testing. And then we will go on with the circular economy or circularity in general. So when we want to get material inside, we have to test it. Here is a view in our testing lab with several testing equipments, preparation of the samples and so on, climate boxes, and some test beds for, here, like here, where you do normal destructive testing, where you compress materials and look for the compression strength, or you look for tension forces and also deformation. And normally, you destroy the material during testing and go to the limits and look where are the limits of the material. We have here also now other methods which are very important when it comes to these functional materials, which is non-destructive testing, for example, by using of the CT scanning, where we really get a material insight into the structure of the material. Because this material, here is an example of an porous metal material, which was, it's like a foam, a metal foam. And this was CT scanned in layers, and then from these layers, the digital twin of this material was generated as a 3D model, and all the artifacts and the deficiencies and the solid geometry were in this 3D model incorporated. And this material insight gets us to the next step, where we can use this material, this digital twin, to simulate the properties and to improve the characteristics virtually, or to testing also the strength of the material virtually, and try to find out quicker and more, let's say, targeted ways to develop the product further. So, for example, here you see a facade element, which is a 3D printed one in a 3D extrusion printer with plastic printing or additive manufacturing. Then this geometry of the cross section of this material was also computerized by CT scanning. Then there was a computational grid generated related to these voxels, so the volume pixels of this computerized geometry. And then several tests were done on temperature and flux magnitudes of the structure, but also it could be tested some strength properties like tension or compression strength, or the modulus of elasticity, and so on. And further on, not only, let's say, the testing of the material is possible, but also a or an advanced manufacturing process, or a test or simulation of the manufacturing process can be done by using the data from previous samples, and then it can be used for simulating the properties, and also let's say artifacts or holes or deficiencies in these new samples. And now I want to come to the circularity, because now we have looked on the possibilities of the development of the let's say more mechanical, structural, and also process related properties. In the circularity field, there is also a lot of or can be a lot of progress made when the sustainability criteria are defined. So for us, it's mainly using more bio-based materials, and then increasing also the amount of secondary material in the products. Then looking for easier separability of the materials and elimination of hazardous substances, and the increased use or longer cycles of the use by increased durability, and also more cycles of reuse of the material. And we also can use the previous shown methods by the CT scanning, or also the processing simulation or manufacturing simulation, to improve these sustainability criteria for the circularity. And this can be done on several levels, and I will now show you the different levels. So they are the building level, the component level, and the material level. And now we look at this optimization task of the certified performance, and here especially the circularity or resource efficiency performance. First of all, when we look at the building level, we see already here in this picture a little bit the problem that we have a lot of material mass in general. We have a great variety of materials, and they are really tightly fixed to each other because the building is used to be used for decades, so not only for a short time. And for these decades, the materials are really very good joint and really hard to separate and to dismantle. And therefore, it's important that new products are, let's say, separable in a good way, so that they can be very clean in their selection, so they are not contain hazardous substances, or they are of one material group, so that they can be used at the highest level of recycling possible, hopefully, so that they are can be closed loop recycled, or maybe open loop recycled, but with the material properties which are related to it. When you look now at such a typical example here for a connection between two walls and a floor slab and all the functional layers which are related to it, this is, I took here an example from the timber construction, because here you have quite high number of functional layers to ensure the performance of the entire wall or the entire slab. You see all these different layers have to be connected somehow, and these connections are taken into consideration when it comes to the dismantling of the layers. So we are analyzing these different layers of the components, and analyzing where does or how is the connection or how can the connection between the different layers released? How difficult is it, and how high is the damage of the respect layer? And then we can sort out also which way this released layer goes in the further step of waste treatment, and also in the further step of or in which stream of reuse, recycling, or maybe energy recovering this material goes. And therefore we get for different types. Here on the left hand side you have an exterior wall with solid wood, and then the exterior wall with concrete. These diagrams are scaled by mass. You see already here in total the mass of the wooden solid wall is quite low compared to the concrete solid wall for 1 square meter of wall. So we have 85 kilograms per square meter versus 550 kilograms per square meter. And you see also then this kind of traffic light signal system, which shows which kind of materials go to reuse, which is 1 or level 1 is a green level, and the lowest level is for disposal, which is not wanted. And you see which materials are going to the disposal. And then we have the different steps according to the waste hierarchy in between. So it's the recycling, closed loop recycling, and open loop recycling, and then the recovery for energy or for material use. And by analyzing these structures, we get more information on how to optimize it, and also maybe we can check for different variations of this composition, or look which solution might work best, and also look closer and at the connections and joints of the different layers, and how we can replace or maybe adjust the jointing material or the adhesives or glues or whatever to achieve better results in the overall rating of these waste streams, and to reduce, let's say, the reddish yellowish colors to more green lights in our traffic light warning system. Further on, we also can generate circularity indicators by this, but not so much on the building level. I want just to refer to the known indicators for the building level, which are still competing on the market. So they are not, let's say, the final standard. Final standard has to be found. So here you see an example from the Madaster score of building level circularity indicator, but there are also others like BAMB indicator or other urban mining indicators are in the market now, and there still need to find a standardized or harmonized way to assess the circularity. We are more into the development of these circularity indicators on the material level and looking for, let's say, on the material flow index on the material in the building, but really on the single materials and how we can address the virgin feedstock or the unrecoverable mass, like here with this MCI material circularity indicator, and also what kind of utility factor the materials have. Further on, you have seen already this example here with the wall. We try to also combine the information for the environmental properties together with the informations for the circularity properties. And we started here with this in this web platform. It's a web-based best practice example collection, which is also available in English now. In former times, it was only available in German. But now you can show here, or you can see here, standardized building materials, standardized assemblies, standardized connection details of this collection of approved construction solutions, standardized solutions, which are all related to bio-based materials for sure. And we enrich this with environmental data, and further on we also will enrich this data with circularity indicators. And then I come to the end and will just show you this group of BENZEP collaborators, members, which are these European testing facilities and universities which are building this group and offer these advanced and innovative services for these NZEP building envelopes. And then I will thank you for your attention and are open for your questions. Sorry, I can't hear you, Zia.
Thank you. Sorry,
Okay.
Thanks, Stephan. There are no questions at this time, so thank you for that presentation, and we will continue on to Domenico Perfido from R2M Solution, presenting the Nature for Cities project with tools assessment for green transition.
Perfect. We can see your screen, Domenico. You may turn on your audio if it is off, and webcam if you'd like to do so.
Domenico, you're muted. Domenico, go to audio.
Sorry.
There we go.
Yeah, sorry guys. Yes, I will going to present you the Nature for Cities project and related paper presented to this event, that is a tool assessment for green transition. Well, you know that urban areas are going to face basically a lot of challenges. These challenges are related to the climate. We have climate issues, water management and quality issues, but also challenges that are related to the air quality, to the biodiversity. That is something that is more related to the growing up of the urban areas, basically. Soil management, and all these kind of challenges, we are trying to face them in the Nature for Cities project, always applying a sort of resource efficiency method and circular economy method. The objective is to have a good impact on the social aspect in order to improve the well-being of the people when applying a nature-based solution project in an urban area. Well, The slide shows you some of these urban challenges that we are facing all around the world. We have water management and quality issue, so flooding, for example, in urban area, but also air quality, air pollution in the cities. The image that you see here is Milan, in the north of Italy, but we have also some unusual issue that are happening in the last years. For example, in the picture, in the image that you see here below, you see a tornado, and we are in Salerno, that is in Campania region, in the south of Italy. And this is a quite unusual phenomenon that is going to happen quite every year from some years to go. Anyway, nature-based solutions are of sure powerful mitigation measures that can be used in order to face these urban challenges. And the next slides just show you what kind of some typology of nature-based solutions that are implemented to face specific problem. This one, for example, is related to the dikes in a river. The dikes normally are placed near the river, and these could basically give some problem when there is a moderate flow of water. While if we apply a sort of different typology of structure, so we, for example, set back the dikes from the river, then we apply nature-based solution, we have reduced the flooding risk. Well, for example, this is another example of on how unhealthy tidal marshal can solve or attenuate the wave height, and so the flooding of the properties that are based and placed near the sea coast. Well, and also nature-based solution can be applied in urban context, for example, to solve some problems that could be related to the biodiversity, or the necessity of a new urban space for the people, or for example, for the air quality. And for example, in the image that you see on the left side here, there is the Bosco Verticale in Milan, which is one of particular application of a nature-based solution in an urban area. In this case, the nature-based solution have been applied on the walls of this building, and of course they help to solve a problem like air quality, or improve the well-being of the people that live in this building. I have to say that Milan, the city of Milan in Italy, is a member of several European programs, like Clever Cities project, or also Nature for Cities project, that would like to apply NBS in the urban context. And Milan is designing wetlands and urban gardens to manage, for example, runoff and connect people to nature. And one example is this vertical forest that you see applied on this building. Well, we also have to say that urban trees, parks, gardens act by intercepting, for example, fine dust in the air, absorbing pollutants, and lowering, for example, the temperature, as well as acting as a buffer effect during floods. So we have understood that the green areas are also opportunity for recreation and opportunity to improve the well-being, and also opportunities to face these urban challenges that we have seen before. This is something that is more stressed also with the actual coronavirus emergency, because, for example, we have seen that in the cities there is a necessity of green areas, public parks, green parks. And this is an example that came from the city where I live. You see that during the lockdown period in Italy, when was allowed to go out for to have a run, for example, or to play with children, these gray areas, completely gray areas, was full of people that was out for playing. This point, the emergency just stress the point that we need green areas, and from this consideration we have organized and planned to make a sort of requalification of this gray area, making it becoming a sort of green, full green area with green parks and all the things that could be helpful in order to improve the recreation and well-being of the people. Anyway, the objective of Nature for City project is to address these urban challenges by fostering the implementation of nature-based solutions. I am sure that you already know very well what is a nature-based solution, but let me give a sort of quick definition here. Nature-based solutions are these actions that are inspired or supported by nature and are spread out at different and interconnected scales. So we are facing these urban challenges within the Nature for Cities project in different cities around Europe. And also Milan in Italy is involved. The Nature for City project is an Horizon 2020 project that involves 27 partners and have a total budget of 7.5 million euro. And of course, the objective is the integration of nature-based solutions in urban areas to create a new and active community network around nature-based solutions, to spread out an high-quality knowledge and also implement new assessment tools for implementing and developing in urban context the nature-based solution action, and also to develop new governance and business and financial models for Nbs implementation. Well, so the main output of this project is the Nature for Cities platform. You have to see this Nature for Cities platform as a sort of a box that contains in itself all the tools that are useful for policymakers, urban professionals, for example, landscape architects and inhabitants, to select the nature-based solution that is the most appropriate to face the specific urban challenge that the city suffer. And it is a sort of guide to all the overall process of creating, selecting, assessing and implementing an Nbs project in urban context. So Nature for City platform is contains in itself technical solutions, methods and tools to empower urban planning decision making and address the contemporary environmental, social, and economic challenges that the European cities are facing. Basically, we start from a fifth step, that is how with the people or the interested targeted users to select the appropriate Nbs for their specific case. Then there is the second stage, that is how to assess the Nbs impact on the urban context. And then there is the last phase, that is how to implement the Nbs in urban context. Basically, we start from taking knowledge from what have been done already around Europe in similar case. Then we select basically the Nbs that is most appropriate, and launch some simulation with the tools that are incorporated in this Nature for Cities platform, in order to analyze the performance and the key performance indicators that we have selected for the specific Nbs application. And at the end, we will guide and suggest some methods in order to select the best and the more appropriate financial scheme or governance model or business model for the project that we would like to implement in the city. Well, let's go to have a quick check to the three main steps of the Nature for Cities platform. The fifth step is to get knowledge and inspiration in order to choose the right Nbs that match the city needs, basically. And in order to do this, we have developed some specific tools. For example, the Nbs Explorer Tool that help you, for example, to download for fact sheet for different Nbs. So, for example, you can select all the Nbs that are related to the water management, and you will find all the examples that are included in a sort of big database of the project. And you can download all the fact sheet that will be helpful in order to understand how these Nbs have been applied in different places around Europe. Then you have also another problem that could be after you have selected some nature-based solution, you would like to check if this nature-based solution can be applied in your cities, for example. Well, we have developed this GeoCluster for Nbs tool that will help you in the replicability of this action, nature-based solution action, and will let you know if, for example, a specific Nbs can be easily applied in your city or not, or if can be applied if there are some limitation that you have to face. Anyway, in order to understand the needs of an urban area, you also have to diagnose continuously the urban context. And you can do this also with the Nature for Cities platform. And you know that all the parameters that are helpful to make a diagnosis of the trends of the city trends can be can change along the time, and with the database and the imagery, satellite imagery that is provided in the Nature for City platform, you can make this diagnosis along the time. Then we have the second step of the Nature for Cities platform, that is once you have selected the specific NBS that can be applied in your city, you have to assess the impact of this NBS in the urban context. And in order to do this, the Nature for Cities platform is able to launch some simulation in order to assess, for example, the 3 different pillars that are the environmental assessment or diagnosis, that is more based on a life cycle assessment. Then there is the urban benefit assessment, so you can see how the introduction of the NBS in your urban context can affect its surroundings. Then we have the socioeconomic assessment that estimate the socioeconomic benefit or co-benefit and cost of the NBS project that you are going to implement in the cities. But what is important is that the Nature for City platform will allow you to launch some simulation, create some scenarios, and will help you to select the best action to be implemented by analyzing in a very user-friendly way the results of this simulation. Then at the end, there is the implementation. When you have selected the NBS to be applied in the city, you also need to build governance and economic model and to follow continuously your project during the implementation and operational phase. In order to do this, the Nature for Cities platform includes in itself an implementation model handbook that will help the users on the selection of the right implementation model. And there is also a sort of tool associated to this handbook that is the implementation model preselector tool that will help to the policymakers, urban designers to select what is the business and governance and financing model that most suitable for the NBS application that they are focusing on. Another important point is that the Nature for Cities platform is a sort of platform that improves the collaboration and the involvement of citizens in the implementation of an NBS project, basically. And we do this through a tool that is named Citizen Says Tool. Anyway, let's turn back to the paper that is presented in Sustainable Place event. The paper is Tools and Assessment for Green Transition. Basically, the paper aims to uncover the market potential of the exploitable results that have been identified in the Nature for City project by identifying the main competitors and developing a sort of exhaustive comparison between them. Basically, the development of this paper is related to the work activities that have been conducted in the project that is related to the market analysis that follow a specific method. Basically, we have identified the exploitable results of the project. We have identified the competitors, and for each competitors, we have developed a sort of SWOT analysis that will help us to compare between the project exploitable results and identified competitors. Will help us to make this comparison, basically. The final objective was to find what is the competitive advantage of the most marketable exploitable results of the project. Well, in the project, we have identified 20 exploitable results, and we have analyzed more than 50 competitors for these exploitable results. We don't have enough time to make a focus for each one, but I would like to make a focus point on the Nature for Cities platform and the identified competitors. Well, the Nature for City platform, as you know, provides knowledge, repositories, tool to assess the benefit, co-benefit, and cost of Nbs action within the urban context area. The platform is quite innovative because it provides also users with a method that helps the end users to evaluate the impact of Nbs on urban context, because it allows to launch some simulations, select some key performance indicators associated to each urban challenges or Nbs that we would like to apply. In general, the Nature for Cities platform can be compared with a similar platform or services that provide to the end users some information about how to apply or how to select an Nbs action for the cities. Well, we have identified the three main competitors that are the following listed and have below: the Think Nature platform, the OPLA platform, and this other is the the Smart Cities Information System. Well, for each one of these competitors, we have developed a detailed analysis that can be summarized in the SWOT analysis that we have conducted. For example, the Think Nature platform is conceived as a multi-stakeholder and communication platform, but its primary objective is to support the understanding and promotion of nature-based solutions, but it doesn't allow, for example, to perform some simulation capable to assess the impact of Nbs. Well, we have then the OPLA platform that is a sort of repository for new services and tools that are related to the Nbs implementation. We have to see it as a sort of marketplace, but sometimes it could be difficult to find, for example, the right tool that can help you to design the right Nbs, or to select the best implementation model for the Nbs that you have selected. So the OPLA platform, it is more intended as a dissemination tool and a promotional portal for Nbs tools and database. And it is not exactly structured, a structured system that provide user detailed information on the impact of this Nbs. So sometimes it could be very difficult to go through this platform and select the right tool that could help you. Then there is the Smart Cities Information System that is more similar to the Think Nature platform. Anyway, it doesn't allow assessing through simulation the impact of the Nbs at different stage. But anyway, this platform is owned and managed directly by European Commission, and the level of reliability of the data that are provided within this platform can be considered quite high. Let's go on. So From the analysis of the competitors, of course, what came out? That the Natural for Cities platform basically offer an user-friendly environment in which the end users that are expert citizen can basically find the all the tools that are necessary for all the phase of the implementation of a nature-based solution project within the cities. Basically, the most important thing is that the platform will help the end user to select the Nbs, but also to launch some simulation at different levels in order to assess the direct impact of the nature-based solution project within the urban context, and this is something quite innovative. And also the platform basically will help, for example, the municipalities that would like to apply nature-based solution action within the cities to collaborate and engage with end users and the citizen, because we have a dedicated tool for this. Anyway, if we would like to visualize graphically what is the positioning of the Nature for Cities platform by taking in account, for example, the ability to execute the simulation in order to assess the impact of the Nbs and the completeness of vision. We think really that the Nature for Cities platform can be placed in the upper right box of this graph that you see here, and we find a lot of competitive advantage that, of course, will make this platform marketable on the easily marketable, basically. And well, I think that it's all. And I am open to your question if there are. Zia, I cannot hear you.
Sorry, thanks. Thank you for that, Domenico. I will save my questions until the end, and there are none yet from the audience. So thank you for that. We'll switch over now to Laetitia Boucher, who has a very interesting presentation on interface sustainable strategy, and the company's name is Interface. So enjoy.
Okay, do you see my screen?
Yes, Laetitia, we can see your screen, and you may turn on your camera if you want.
Okay. Up and my camera.
Yes, perfect. Thank you very much.
There we go. So I'm happy to be with you and share interface circular story with you. But first, interface is, I don't know how to switch my slides, sorry. How does it work?
You can maybe click on the screen.
Okay. Sorry,
and also,
this is just that I am around.
Sorry,
okay.
Before you start, I may check with Zia. Is it me, or do you have connection problem as well, seeing Laetitia? Because if it is like that for you, we can ask her to turn off her camera.
No, well, let's try. It seems okay.
Maybe
There was a, yeah, let's try.
Okay.
Okay. You see my second screen now?
Yes, yes, I see the map.
Okay, so Interface is a global modular flooring company. It is to say that we manufacture carpet, LVT, and rug. As you can see, we have 8 around the world, 6 of which are dedicated to our historical know-how. It is to say carpet time, because we want to be able to serve our customer as closely as possible. We are a traded company. Our turnover is $1.3 billion, and we are 5,400 around the world. Our sustainable journey began in 1994, when one of our customers asked, "What are you doing for the environment?" And at that time, we didn't have any answer. We lost the customer. But our founder, Ray Anderson, did really want to have an answer. So after reading Paul Hawken's book, The Ecology of Commerce, he had a vision. He wanted to run his business like nature does, it is to say, in closed loop. He decided that his company will move from a linear model, it is to say, take, make, waste, to a circular one. This is how our first mission was born, Mission Zero. The goal is to eliminate any negative impact the company may have on the environment by 2020, so this year. To map our journey, Ray Anderson formed an eco-dream team with scientists, authors, entrepreneurs, and activists. We draw a framework based on how everything in nature works in a closed loop. We determine 7 fronts to see how we can eliminate waste, operate with renewable energy, and work with healthy materials with being neutral on the environment. We set very aggressive zero targets in water, fossil fuel energy use, waste, and greenhouse gas emissions. As we couldn't do it alone, we involved the stakeholder of our value chain. It includes, of course, our customers and suppliers, but also operating with other sectors, NGOs, and government, for example, to develop new ways of doing business. Since 1996, for carpet tile, we've managed to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by 96%. The water used by 89%, and waste to landfill by 92%. In the meantime, we worked hard to increase the use of renewable energy in our facilities. And now we operate with 100% electricity from renewable sources in all our facilities. For our product, we use 60% of recycled or bio-based material. And we've managed to reduce the carbon footprint of our products on the entire life cycle, it is to say from raw material extraction till the end of life of the product, by 74%. In other words, it is 3/4 reduction in 25 years. It is huge, really. To measure our footprint, we use a life cycle analysis. You can see that in our scope of influence, production, our emissions are benign. We also work hard with our suppliers to lower the raw material emissions. We are currently working with our 6 main significant suppliers using LCA data to work to reduce carbon emissions in the next 3 years. We also partner with Manufacture 2030 to provide tools to reduce the CO2 footprints of 9 of our suppliers. Today, the biggest impact that remains for us and the biggest works that remains for us to do is where we have the less influence once the goods are out of the company. You can see that the use, the maintenance, and the end-of-life management account for 40% of the whole life cycle product. We really have to grow awareness of our users, but also of stakeholders who manage the end of life of our product. This is where we are working very hard those days. Being circular implies a lot of innovations. Our interface, innovation and sustainability are in the same team. We are the co-innovation team. And Mission Zero conditioned a lot of innovation, the success of it. For example, biomimicry is one of is a source of several innovation, such as random patterns, which imitate the harmony of the nature, where each element is different and at its place. The benefits: there is less waste during installation, it is divided by 2, and less restocking because the products no longer have batches. So when you want to change your carpet because you don't like the design anymore, you don't have a lot of stock to get rid of. Another example, our tiles product, Gecko Inspired. It is a glue-free and sustainable way to install our carpet tiles. In fact, it imitates the fingers of the gecko when it is on the wall. The environmental benefits is we've managed to have a 90% smaller footprint than traditional flooring adhesives, for example. And also when we want to remove the carpet at the end of life of the product, we can reuse it or recycle it in a much better way. We are also innovative in partnership. Our networks program is a good example of innovative, disruptive, inclusive, and circular model. In 2012, the company launched the program in Philippines in partnership with the NGO, VDSL, one of our yarn supplier, Aquafil, and networks reduce the number of abandoned fishing nets in oceans, avoid wild fishing, and empower local fisher communities. As part of this program, networks purchase used fishing nets from small artisanal fisher folk for a fair price. These nets are then recycled into yarn by Aquafil to be at the end used to make new carpet tile. This project is now extended to Indonesia and Cameroon and made it possible to collect 224 tons of waste fishing nets, providing over 2,200 families with access to finance and a cleaner and healthier environment to 64,000 people. We are also contributing to a multi-stakeholder consortium named Next Wave Plastic, which aim is to prevent plastic from entering into the ocean and taking back plastic that is already in the ocean and transform it as raw material. So we are trying to find ways with different industry to find solutions for those plastic abandoned. We are also innovative in our ends of life treatment with our re-entry program. We offer a second life to our products by extending their use through reuse. If the product is too worn out, we repurpose it in equestrian floors, for example, or recycle it. And then if reuse, repurpose, or recycle is not possible, we recover energy in a waste-to-energy facility. 2019 was a historic year for Interface. We announced the success of Mission Zero. To celebrate this event, we launched a report called Lessons for the Future, where we share 25 years of sustainable experience and feedback. You can find it in our website. We also announced that since the beginning of the year, all our products, it is to say carpet, LVT, and rubber, are carbon neutral. You remember that previously I told you we've managed to reduce our carbon footprint by 3/4. The remaining quarter is offsetted in renewable energy or reforestation program. Last year, we offset 549,000 tons of CO2 for 48 billion square meters carpet sold. All our products are carbon neutrals globally and over the entire life cycle. 4 years ago, we knew that we were going to achieve Mission Zero, so we asked ourselves, okay, what do we do next? So we called the Eco Dream team that I've talked about, and we decided to launch a new mission. The name is Climate Tech Back, and the aim is how to reverse climate change and being a regenerative company. Last year, we set a new objective, be a carbon negative company by 2040. We've drawn 4 pillars to act. Live zero, it is to say, move on with our Mission Zero and eliminate all the negative impact that remains. Love carbon, consider carbon as a resource with raw materials that sequester carbon, for example, as bio-based materials are. It is the way Stephan explained to you. And let nature cool. How can our factories, products, and services can participate in a positive way in the surrounding ecosystems, acting like a high-performing ecosystems, and so contribute to help the nature to regulate the climate again. And at least lead the industrial revolution is to push the industry to act for the climate. This year, we launched our first backing made of biocomposite with materials that are net carbon negative. On average, the total recycled and bio-based content of our product is 92.8% thanks to this new backing. It is to say that we are very, very close to get rid of virgin material. In our product, we increase recycled and bio-based content by 33.9% and managed to reduce the CO2 footprint by 1/3. Last week in the United States, we've launched our first collection with negative impact. It is called Embodied Energy, and cradle to gate, the results are minus 0.4 kilos of CO2 per square meter emissions. So this is the first product, and we are very proud, the first carbon negative product, sorry. And we are very proud because today in buildings, embodied carbon is off of the emissions of the building life. I am also delighted to share that Interface have been awarded with a UN Global Climate Action Award in the Climate Neutral Now category last week. So thank you very much, and if you have questions, feel free.
Thank you, Laetitia. I have many questions, but I will leave them until the end.
Okay.
There are no questions from the audience so far, so thanks very much for that. And we shall move on now to Dena Arabsolgar from Holonix, and she is presenting the FiberEUse project, and that is entitled A Circular IT Platform to Manage Innovative Design and Circular Entities. Take it away, Dena.
Unmute. Thank you for the introduction. I will show you my presentation, which should be working this way.
Yes, it works perfectly, Dena.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so I will present the FiberEUse solution, which is a large-scale demonstration of new circular economy value chains based on the reuse of end-of-life fiber reinforced composite. The intention of this presentation is to let you know how we worked on the IT platform. As Holonix is an IT company, so we are working on the research projects from the IT point of view. So we are working on sustainability and circular economy, trying to find a way to let the IT platform being circular in order to manage innovative design and also circular entities. Just a brief summary to let you know how I'm going to explain during this afternoon. I will give you some data about the project, which is the beginning of the reasoning for us, and an overview of the use cases and an example in the construction, which is one of the pilots, and then the extraction of which had been the stakeholders' needs. And from here, what we have understood and created as the new circular information management. I will let you know what is the Matriarch Approach in the circular platform, which is an IT concept that we have brought to the circular IT solution. Then the need of the multi-actor involvement, which is the base to co-create circular products. And then how we have answered to the challenges through different solutions, which I will very quick show you. Okay, so let's start from some data about the project. FiberEUse is a project which has started on June 2017. It is a 4-year duration. We are completing now the phases related to the analysis of the mechanical parts. And we have finished the development of the IT platform. We are starting now the adoption, and we have quite 1 year to complete the adoption with the use cases. It is a big horizon project, which is about 10 million with 20 partners and 7 countries. The objective of the project is to develop and demonstrate a large-scale reuse of the end-of-life composites through the integration of innovative remanufacturing technologies, addressed to develop profitable reuse options for mechanically on one side and thermally on the other side recycled end-of-life glass and carbon fiber composites. The second objective is the development of an innovative strategy for the mobilization and networking of stakeholders of different sectors. So we are working with different sectors, which means different pilots, but also stakeholders of different kinds. So we are working with processors, so companies which has the technologies, but also with waste providers and also with designers and also with logistic operators and so on. So it is very relevant consortium and project because we had the opportunity to put together the entire value chain, but also different value chains which had been connected. Here you can see the different sectors which are involved in the project, and you can see and follow the 3 different use cases. One is the remanufacturing, which is the blue one, and it works inside the project trying to collect material and to remanufacture it and to reuse it into a new design of products in the automotive sector. And a second one is related to a thermal recycling of long fibers, both glass and carbon fibers, through the reuse in different sectors which are related to the high-tech or high-resistance applications. So, for example, they are used in furniture, but also in construction and in creative products, and in automotive too. The materials which are used for the thermal recycling are kept from the from wind blades and from the aerospace sector. Then the other use case is related to the mechanical recycling, and again it is for short glass fiber, which are used again in furniture, but also construction and sport and so on. This is one of the value chains that we have created inside the project, which is able to show you that we are connecting different sectors and we are creating a circular solution and the circular life of objects. For example, starting from, as I was saying, wind blades or construction, we are able to have mechanical recycling of the material which are collected here, so not wasted here, but reused. They are collected and managed thanks to the logistical operators, which are all across Europe. And they are re-elaborated from different technology providers, which are in the project adopting different solutions and processes to create something new and to have different technologies new. But we are also working with designers to create new solutions, new processes, but also new and products. Then we are creating new final products, for example, again in furniture and in constructions. This will be able to go back again in the same sectors. For example, here you see the construction, which is just an example, or it can go to new markets. The creation of this circle is the base of the information management that we have analyzed to start creating our circular IT solution. Okay, so the base is, I will just keep some hypes. So the need of taking back products, which is something relevant for the management of the information, because we have to know what is the information which has been taken back and reused, because we have to track and to keep track of that information. But it is also relevant to understand if and how it is possible to make profit for the objects which are moving across the value chain and across the circle. And then the creation of new product concepts, because as at the moment we all know, it is a need to not only try to do the same products and the same objects with the virgin materials, but it is a need to understand how to work on new projects with the recycled materials. And this is again relevant for the IT point of view, so for the information management, because this means that we are going to work with materials and with objects which are unknown or which can be different every time we get a new recycled object, a new recycled material. So going deep into the analysis of the value chains, we had some analysis of the stakeholders' needs, and I will go for an overview. For example, waste providers or byproduct providers told us that they needed to dispose the end-of-life products in a way that was able to reduce cost, or because they were not allowed anymore to send the material to the landfill, or because they needed to do the end-of-life processes in a sustainable way. But their problem were that they didn't know how to offer these materials, and they also didn't know if they had to pre-process the waste, and in that case how they would be allowed to pre-process the waste. These limitations are related not on one side on the capacities of the materials and of the technologies, and on the other side on the legislation. Another need is the one related to the producers, so that companies which has the processes and the technologies to process the material, so to change the status of a material, and they are interested in having and in working new materials that are less expensive than traditional ones, but they are also interested in proposing new materials which has same or similar properties to the traditional. So maybe something new, but which has the same resistance, for example. And they also need to manage the availability, because producers need to work on material which has a standard availability, and it cannot be different every time they have to work on a new product. But the problem is that at the beginning, so the first time, they are not able to compare traditional materials with new materials. So they need to understand, to have an analysis or to have information related to the specific characteristics. So it's not enough a general description, because in a general description of the traditional material, for example, some characteristics are known, so are common. You know that if you have a brick, you have specific static and specific material physics characteristics. But what happens if you have something similar made in a new material, which is the resistance, which is the temperature, which is whatever? You don't know the characteristics. So it is a need to learn how to describe new materials through their characteristics. Another but is that they don't know how to purchase the new material. Who is able to provide the new material? So we need to matchmake. We need to understand who is able to provide new materials. Another need, the process provider. They can process end-of-life products. They can create new material. They can also offer only technologies to use new materials. For example, this is happening for additive manufacturing. They have the machinery, they are able to provide the process, but they don't know who can provide the waste, for example. So they have a machinery which is used in the usual traditional production line, but to use it with waste, they need to receive waste maybe from others or from other companies, and they are not in contact with anyone which has that waste. So again, we need a matchmake. And again, maybe they are receiving contacts from providers of waste of materials, and they are processing their material. Then they have a new material at the end of their production, and they again need to understand who can be interested in that new material or technology or service. And again, we need a matchmake. Logistic operators, they can pre-process the materials, and they can transport end-of-life products, so waste in the common view. They can also organize national and international transport, but they are not always aware on who needs the services, because we are going outside the common linear value chain. So we are creating new connections, and they also needs to be connected. And they also don't know which are the regulations that are applied to waste, because we have to remember that at the moment, but something is changing. We are all related to waste. So every time that we are dismantling a product, we are having a waste officially, and this needs to be changed. So we are quickly going to the end of waste concept, which is now mentioned recently from the Italian legislation, for example, but this is a must that should come and should be regulated in the entire Europe, because we have to change from the concept of waste to the concept of object. And we are having a proposal through this platform. So going to the information management, here is the description of what happens in a linear economy. So from the extraction of a material to the end of life. So this means that at the end we are having waste, but I'm saying something which is common and you all know as you are here in this Sustainable Places event. So what happens in the circular economy? In the circular economy, we are working on objects which are used from their concept to their entire life. At the end, they have to go to reuse or recycle or remanufacturing or something like that. But what happens for the information management? Well, we do have an object here which is made of informations, because you have to be for the moment into the information management. This object changes to something new because you don't have the waste, so it changes to something new, and again you have another circle, and again you have another circles, and so on. What happens again for the information? It happens that we have two different new things to be considered. One is the Matriarch approach, which is an official IT concept, which is related to the recursion. And it means that every time that you dismantle an object, you put it into another object. Every time you dismantle or you reuse or recycle, you have a group of information which needs to be maintained, for example, to maintain the traceability. And this is the Matryoshka which goes inside. On the other side, you have the actors. In these chains, which are circling, you need to have a multi-actor approach, because every time you are involving the actors or the stakeholders of one circle, and then you are involving again the stakeholders of another circle. So the Matryoshka, we need to create knowledge and to match the needs, because we need to understand if, how, what, and when is able to use, to reuse, to recycle, or to remanufacture, or to do something again. So we need to define the concept of a circular entity. So it is an object of something which is circular and used and reused again. And we have to work not for the company interest from the IT point of view, but from the ecosystem point of view. We always have to consider the entire ecosystem. So we have to let people know, be able to search, to matchmake, to enter in touch with other companies, to suggest proposals, or to suggest materials and processes, to visualize what others are doing, and again, to keep the history tracked. On the other side, the multi-actor, well, share and collaborate is becoming the new mantra. We need to involve actors, and we need to introduce the social approach across the value chain. We need to propose ideas, to create tags, to have things recognizable. We have to put likes, comment, to score, to poll. We have to search, to match, and so on. This is why we are thinking on something which is circular IT platform. So we are again managing the information in a circular way. We need also to co-create, so to use the open innovation concept, which requires to involve all the stakeholders. Which are the challenges that we are approaching? Well, first of all, going back to the Matryoshka approach, we have to understand how it is possible to go from one entity to the next circular entity. Because to do that, we have to think outside of the box, and we have to understand how we can create and use and describe new materials, but also new ideas, new processes, new collaboration, and so on. To do that, we have created the Idea Manager solution, which I will very quickly show you in a while. And it is based on the open innovation and the co-creation approach. It is for the design of new solutions. The other challenge is how to actively involve the users, because we understood that we have to involve as many stakeholders as possible. So we need to create new collaborations, new value chains, new connections, new ecosystems, but also new deals and so on. Our solution here is the ecosystem management platform, which is matchmaking and creating recursions. The first solution is the Idea Manager, which is a web-based software tool designed to provide and to support activities along the idea generation process, which is part of the open innovation approach. It is not firm-centric, it is stakeholder-centric, idea-centric, and it is multi-actors, which means that it is able to involve whoever. So employees, designers, customers, providers, the entire community, and so on. Here is the way you will see it. So you will be able to get into the platform and you will be able to submit new ideas, but also to see the others' ideas and to get feedbacks. If you decide to propose your idea, so for example, to say, I have a new material and I'm interested in creating a new object, for example, a wine cooler made with the recycled glass fiber coming from a roof, then you can here put the title and propose, for example, your pictures and description and add tags and whatever you will need to add. These are examples which are kept from the projects. We have to work with the designers and we have proposed the ideas created to the social community. These are all objects which are created with the recycled glass and carbon fibers proposed by designers from an Austrian university. So here the user is able to see which are the ideas and is also able to propose to answer to surveys or to put comment. This solution is allows the stakeholders to get in contact among them. So for example, it is possible that the designer gets in contact with the producer or the processor to be sure that it is easy and possible to have to create the object which is proposed, so also to have a technical feasibility check and so on. This is the way that the moderator, you see here I'm logged as moderator. Here is the way the moderator is able to see the different ideas which are proposed, and he is able to manage it. For example, saying if it is useful or not, and to change the status, because for example the ideas can be public to the stakeholders or can be kept private, or can ask for clarifications to the proposer, or can be rejected, or can also, here it is not visible, but it is also possible to group them by concept and so on. So through this platform it is possible to create new ideas and to let people collaborate and co-create together, involving the competencies of everyone. Last but not least, the ecosystem management platform, which is our circularity platform, which is of course cloud-based. It is multi-sided, which means that it is able to put in contact different actors from different companies, and enables potential user to manage and to access to relevant information. It connects two or more interdependent user groups. It plays as intermediator, and it is the matchmaking enabler. This solution minimizes the transaction costs between the market sites because it simplifies the connections and the information sharing. To be really useful, we know, and this is our first challenge, that it must achieve a network effect. So it is relevant that we need to involve many users and stakeholders to start with the real usage and the real effect of the solution. So some screenshots to show you that this is the platform, so the ecosystem management platform. Here we are reporting the concept that you have seen before. For example, the concept of the Matryoshka is here reported as circular entity. So what we are managing in the IT solution is an object, and the object is something which is circular, so it is a circular entity, which means that it can be a product in use, for example, a blade or a wind blade, but it can also be something which is under development, so under different steps of process. For example, it can be glass fiber construction waste, which in a linear system is again called waste, but in a circular system should be called simply entity, and or object, or however we would like to define it. This is a matter of standardization which should be defined one day, but not waste anymore, because it is something which can be reused again. This is why we are still using the word waste in the descriptions, because people and companies are using it. These are real names which are given by the pilots at the moment, but we have taken off this concept of waste from the platform because we know that it is going to end up. So also what is at the moment called waste in the platform is becoming a circular entity, so something which is available for reprocessing again. A circular entity is described, for example, through the resources which are making it being existing. So, for example, it is made of other circular entities or other processes. For example, I'm going back a bit. For example, you have a piece of blade. A piece of blade is simply a blade which has been chopped to become a piece of blade. So the piece of blade is the part which is inside the Matryoshka, and it is made of the blade and the chopping process. I will show you this visualized into a chart at the end of the presentation. This is, for example, the enter in touch function, which means that according to the search of circular entities or the search of processes or services in general, through the platform, it is possible to get in contact with the companies which are providing that entities or processes or services. Of course, here you have the search function, which allows you to search for generic keywords, but also, as I was explaining at the beginning, it is also possible to search not for an object with a description, but for characteristics. So, for example, it is possible to search for resistance to the temperature of 25 degrees, or it is possible to search a process which is able to work an object which is bigger than 2 meters or whatsoever. So it is a search which is advanced because it is related to specific parameters. Here is the chart I was saying, and here it is possible to see the result of the ecosystem. For example, here you see what I was described. So the fact that the piece of blade, for example, is made of a blade and a chopping, and it had been thought through decision support system, which has given information on how it is the best way to be worked and processed. The same happens for the next step. So for the next doll of the Matryoshka, here you have the new recycled glass fiber, which in the linear system was a waste, but here it is simply a material which had been created using the piece of blade and the mechanical recycling process, and so on. This will close the loop in the moment when an object is again reused in an existing circular entity. We are starting now with the real adoption. So as I was saying, the information which is inserted here is real, and we are starting at the moment with the real adoption with partners. And we know that we are creating some circles which are closing. So we hope that in a few months we will have this ecosystem chart really representing the circularity of the new ecosystem that we have created into FiberEUse. Thank you.
Thank you, Dena. Very interesting. Good demo of the platforms. I also have questions for you, but I will hold them until the end. And Laetitia does have one question from Lisa Chase, but we will get to all of those questions after these last two presentations. So thanks, Dena. Next up, we have the DigiPrime project, which is the digital platform for circular economy and cross-sectorial sustainable value networks, and this will be presented by Elena Mossali from Politecnico di Milano.
Okay, can you see? Can you listen?
Yes, we can see it perfectly, Elena.
Okay, perfect. So I'm Elena Mossali. I will present DigiPrime today. Actually, I'm a researcher at Stiima-CNR, that is the Italian National Research Council, but I collaborate also with the University Politecnico di Milano, that is the coordinating partner for the DigiPrime project, in particular with the person of Professor Marcello Colledani. So, just to give you an overview of the DigiPrime project, it was founded within the Horizon 2020 program. In particular, it starts this year in January, and it will last till December 2023, with the funding of 16 million euros. The consortium is constituted by 36 European partners coming from research institute, but also industrial companies, having expertise in different sectors. So, for example, we have Knorr-Bremse for mechatronic components, Siemens Gamesa for the renewable energy sectors, Envirobat for batteries, and so on. And the aim of the DigiPrime project is the development of a digital platform that offers different types of services able to boost the European transition towards circular economy. So the idea is to overcome all the current barriers and issues and challenges, for example, the lack of information between the different stakeholders of the value chain, in order to reach a more sustainable and profitable management of different end-of-life products. Okay, to understand the motivation of the DigiPrime project, here you can see the general value chain of a product that goes from the manufacturing to the final disposal, that is the traditional linear chain. And we have seen lots of times in this session, in this presentation, the idea is to introduce different steps enabling sustainability of this chain. So, for example, the reuse, the remanufacturing, the recycling, in order to have a circular loop value chain for the different products. Obviously, this transition towards circular business case, circular economy, is not easy and have lots of challenges to face. So we have already cited the lack of information for the different actors, the different stakeholders of the value chain, but there are also, for example, the lack of certification to regulate the remanufactured product and the secondary application that we obtain with this circular economy approach, or the poor acceptability in the market of recycled product, because I don't know, the consumer feel less performant the product because it is made by a recycled material. So these are the main challenges, but there are lots of challenges connected to this transition to the circular economy. So the DigiPrime project that want to facilitate and boost this transition is based on different services that are aimed to support these end-of-life treatment and processes, for example, through the sharing of data and information between the different actors and stakeholders of the value chain. But it will be happen not only in the same sector, so for example from the battery producer to the battery recyclers, but also in a cross-sectorial way. So for example from the battery producer to the renewable energy sectors that will use the remanufactured batteries at the end of their first life, so for the secondary applications. And obviously, beside this sharing of information, DigiPrime is aimed also to interact, to ensure the interoperability and scalability of the developed platform with the existing platform and tools used by the different actors. These obviously want to demonstrate the economic, social, and environmental sustainability of these new circular business models, also supported by new standardization, by new legislation that consider the barriers that we need to face and that support all these transition. Here we can see the structure of the DigiPrime project that is mainly oriented to the industrial demonstration and validation of the developed solution. So we see that the initial development of the platform architecture and of services last the first 2 years, and then we move to the industrial demonstration, so in real applicative scenarios through the pilots, the different pilots. Today I will present you, obviously I will give you a brief insight inside the digital platform architecture and the service that we want to develop inside the project, and then I spent 2 more words on the pilot demonstration, because one of the pilot is also connected to the construction sector. And at the end I will also show you the open call mechanism that is a way also to be involved in the DigiPrime project through this founding process to expand our project results also to other type of applications. So for the platform architecture, The idea is that the users of the platform will be the stakeholders of different value chains. So we have the recycler, the producer, the logistic operators, and so on, in different sectors: automotive, renewable energies, batteries, construction, design. And so, according to the specific needs and the specific role of the user, of the actor, different type of services could be available in the DigiPrime platform. And this is the idea of a multi-node federation structure for the platform itself. Then we have also a combination of centralized and decentralized approaches for the sharing of relevant information along the value chain. It means that, for example, some services are based to the platform that acts as a central point for the management of the information and for the interaction between the different actors. In other cases, instead, there is the direct contact, the direct interaction with a decentralized approach that is obviously a little bit less simplified method to manage the information, but it gains in trustworthiness and data protection. And this decentralized approach is based on a blockchain technologies. Obviously, then we have the semantic data infrastructure to have an easy sharing and searching of information that are of different type, of different product, of different sectors. So it's a really huge amount of data, and also data policy framework for the protection of the data. Inside the DigiPrime platform, as we have already said, we will have different types of services that can be grouped into main categories. On one side, we have the value chain oriented services that are horizontal services and connects the different actors, the different stakeholders inside the value chain from one sector to another, and so connect different nodes of the federation. On the other case, we have instead operational services that are vertical, are focused on a specific needs of an actor, of a company, and are used to enhance the profitability and the effectiveness of the dairy manufacturing processes. So in the DigiPrime platform, there are in total 16 different services grouped in these two classes. Here there is the list, but to understand better the differences, I have reported here just a few examples. So, for example, for the value chain oriented services, we have the remanufacturing data management and sharing, and the demand and supply matching tool. The former is aimed at share the relevant information from the, for example, initial producer of the product and the final recycler or remanufacturer that needs the information to set up, to optimize the process and so on. And so in this case, we work on the definition of what type of information are necessary, what level of details, why they are so important for the processes, and so on. And we try to facilitate this sharing of information. The demand and supply matching tool instead it allows the connection from the supplier of the end of life products, the waste, to the user, so the recycler, the remanufacturer, in order to match the demand and the supply according to the type of waste, the volumes, and so on. And these are cross-sectorial services all along the value chain. Then we have instead operational services, for example, the circular production planning or the material testing and certification that are used by the single company. So, for example, for the circular production planning, we have informations on the incoming volumes, the characteristic of the waste, so that the recycler could set up and optimize the process according to the incoming waste, the input waste. And could obviously schedule and plan the production according also to the final user for secondary application demand that it has. The material testing and certification instead is a support at the end of the value chain. So when we have the remanufactured product, the recovery compounds, we need, for example, a certification, because obviously a material that goes in a sector for pigments or enter again the loop of the batteries, for example, needs different properties and different standardization. Certification. And so this type of tools helps support this type of processes. Okay, once developed, the service will be then demonstrated in real industrial scenarios through the pilots. We have 6 pilots, and the first 4 pilots are related to the demonstration of specific value chain, so connected to specific products. And we have batteries, mechatronic and electronics products, composite and technopolymers, and textile components. So in this case, we have a value chain that is focused on a specific product, but that connect different sectors, because we have automotive, we have renewable energy, and so on. And here the idea is to use, to run the DigiPrime services to validate the effectiveness of the solution that we have proposed inside the project, to understand if there are others opportunities, something that could be improved and implemented. And obviously the different consortium partners act as different roles of the value chain for the demonstration. Obviously, the added value of the pilots, it's related also to the interoperability of the DigiPrime platform with the already existing ICT infrastructure, and the demonstration of the generated data with which we populate the services and the platform. Then there are other 2 pilots that are more strategic, and are aimed to boost the transition towards a circular economy in the European scenario. And the first one, and both are dedicated to go beyond the value chain that we have identified. So, for example, the pilot 5 is focused on the identification and the establishment of innovative value chain, mapping the cross-regional synergies that we could have in Europe through the methodologies developed in Screen, that is another European project. Instead, Pilot 6 will demonstrate and will support and integrate the European Circular Innovation Hubs. So all the European infrastructure that pilots plans that are present in Europe, and that offer to the different industry, the different companies, the service able to demonstrate innovative circular solution without that the companies invest before understand if the results could be technically and economically sustainable. And so also in this case, we support this type of circular innovation hub, as in the case of the Vanguard initiatives. Okay, this was the general idea, the general pilots that we have inside the project, but I want to focus on the pilot 3, so composites and technopolymers, because we have the connection with the construction sector. So here you can see the different use cases that will be validated inside the DigiPrime project, and you can also see the strong cross-sectorial approach of the process. Also because in some case the closed loop, so the recycling inside the same sector, is not possible. For example, automotive towards automotive, or renewable energy towards renewable energy, is not so easy, because they are high demanding application that at the end of the life, due to the degradation, that small degradation that we have after the recycling, it is not possible to re-enter in this sector, but there are still residual properties or materials that could be used for less demanding application, and so we move towards other sectors such as the construction and the design. So here we see the general value chain that we have nowadays for the last part of the value chain. So we have the input waste that could be industrial, that could be end-of-life products that will be then mechanically or thermally treated in order to be reprocessed in new products embedding these recycled materials, or could be sold as secondary raw materials. And nowadays this is not a robust value chain, and in particular there are few European examples of this value chain, but they are limited to specific case. So for example, a company that recycle its own waste because it knows the composition, the mechanical properties, and so could be easy to recycle its own waste. But the idea is to extend all this type of value chain, of this type of operation and steps, also to more complex product coming from outside the companies. So for example, the wind blades, or other type of materials coming from different sectors. And the constraints related to this type of approach, obviously, is the lack of information, but also the technical and economical feasibility of this type of processes, because, for example, the pyrolysis could be difficult to be performed for glass fiber reinforced materials, because they are less, the process is expensive, while the marketization of the final materials is not so, it is not connected to a high economic gain. Or there are technical limitations, because obviously the process is connected to a partial degradation of the initial mechanical properties, and in some cases it could be technically difficult to obtain a final product that could be used, reused, or introduced in other applications. According to this, obviously, here we can find the targets of DigiPrime project that want to support this type of value chain, innovative value chain. For example, supporting the manufacturing processes embedding recycling materials, increasing the recycling efficiency of the processes, the mechanical properties, and so on. And another point, another challenge, main challenge of this type of approach, and this sector is in particular, is the supply of post-use composite, because there is no collection center, a central point where this type of waste is collected and distributed to recyclers. And so DigiPrime want also to support this direct interaction between the different actors to promote this type of material flow along the value chain. And here, just to show the complexity of this type of approach, we can see the different stakeholders involved in the process that are also different for the different sectors that we try to connect. Okay, in the table I have reported the list of the services that we will implement in the DigiPrime platform, connected specifically to the pilot 3, so the composites pilot. And I have reported again the example of the matchmaking demand supply matching tool and the circular production planning, just to show that we start generalizing, so with a service that could be useful for different type of products, but then in the pilots for the demonstration, we will adapt specifically and demonstrate specifically the service for the specific application. So for example, when we talk about waste type, in case of composite, we need to understand the type of the composition of fiber, the composition of the resin, the type of additives, and all of this information that are strictly connected to the pilots 3 and composites. Okay, here there are the two use cases that use the construction sectors as input sectors. That means that the materials coming from the building at their end of life, so the waste, facade panels, covering sheet, piping, and so on, will be collected, will be dismantled and sorted till reaching the recycling facilities and then be treated. And in this case, the DigiPrime platform will support and helps specifically the part of dismantling and sorting, thanks to the sharing of information and also the recycling treatment. Instead, here there are the use cases that has the construction as output. That means that we start from wasted that are from different sectors, automotive, blades, but also construction, that are recycled, and the final recovered compounds and materials are then used again in construction for roof sheets, facade panels, and so on. So also in this case, we can see the cross-sectoriality of the DigiPrime project, and also the huge work of the demonstration that we will perform, because we want to show and demonstrate and validate in real industrial scenarios, so connected to final products, real products. And obviously, you see that we have example, no? We talk about products, but we have some example. We want to have the highest number of possible of different applications to demonstrate the effectiveness of the DigiPrime platform. And to do that, we work on our pilot that are divided in many use cases, but we are also open to the different contributions that could be given also by external companies and partners. So in this case, we will launch the open calls that will be open in the third year of the DigiPrime project, and that are addressed to increase the demonstration of the services in new pilots, in innovative value chain that are not previously identified, or in the same value chain but in different sectors, or other services that we are not considered in the previous list, and could come also from different different projects that already work on these topics and want to have a validation, have a demonstration also at this industrial level. So obviously we will start with a guide for applicants and evaluators till reaching the final proposal that will be integrated in the DigiPrime platform. And there will be two different calls. One more related to the services, new services, and the other to new pilots and value chains that will be open for 2 months with a total amount of funding of 2 million euros, and the total amount of accepted proposal goes from 12 to 15 participants according to the budget. And it will be open to small, medium enterprises, but also to small consortiums, so also considering research organization. Obviously, I will give details if you are interested also later in the question and answer session. Okay, so just to conclude, here I know that DigiPrime is a very huge and complex project also to digest in this presentation, but I want just to give you the main idea. So the needs to share information all along the value chain, to have a cross-sectorial approach to boost this transition towards circular economy and to exploit the residual properties of the different products, the importance of the demonstration of all these services in real industrial scenarios through the pilots, and obviously if you want to join us, if you want to support the project and you have some ideas related to this concept, also the open calls will be open and will be available to find also new and innovative value chains and concepts that we have not identified and considered till now. So that's all from my side, and thank you for the attention.
Thank you, Elena. Very excellent presentation, and it seems like quite an ambitious project. So thanks for that.
Thank you.
So far, the only question so far is still for Laetitia, but again, I do have questions for everyone. We will unmute Lisa at that time when I ask her question to Laetitia. However, now we have the last but certainly not least presentation before the Q&A period. And that comes from Andrew Evans from Hudson Architects in the UK. And he is presenting the CobBauge project. Excuse me if I mispronounced that. And that stands for low-tech, high-performance earth construction. Or maybe it doesn't stand for it, but this is the title of his presentation. So thank you, Andrew, and please take it away.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get my screen shown.
Yes, Andrew, we can see your screen perfectly.
You can, yep. Oh.
Yes, you just click on full screen.
Sorry, there we go.
Yes,
okay,
perfect.
You can see now?
Yes, yes.
So thanks for the intro, Zia. Yeah, I'm Andrew Evans and I work for Hudson Architects, and we are one of the partners in the CobBauge project. A bit of the project background. So the same as the background of a lot of projects here is that we're really looking within the EU to reduce CO2 levels, and the built environment is such a big part of that, from construction to demolition. Current estimates worldwide are about 40% of all CO2 emissions. So it's definitely something that is one of those things that's worth looking at. And so the project's funded by the Interreg programme, which is an EU-funded project which takes in essentially the areas which are not blacked out, so the south of England and the north of France. So our partners are strewn across there with Earth Building UK and Ireland and us. as well as our French partners, and it's all headed by the University of Plymouth. So there's lots of resources and lots of knowledge here. The project's already won an award back in October of 2019 in Brussels, and that was really exciting to get some validation here. And sorry, my presentation seems to be moving by itself. But the background of this is, you know, the climate crisis. It's one of those things that seems to have gone a little bit quiet at the moment, but despite the world we're living in at the moment, there's still very much a climate crisis. And as we've mentioned, that so I work for an architectural practice, so our architects in the UK have declared a climate emergency, and it's something that we're really really worried about my practice. So we're hoping that CobBauge can give some impact into that. And one of the main things that CobBauge looks at is embodied energy. So with buildings becoming more and more high performance, the operational energy is becoming less and less of a percentage of that life cycle assessment. So embodied energy is becoming more and more prevalent. And since I maybe started university at that point, it seemed to be all about life cycle. It seemed to be about operational carbon. And I think there's now a really big focus on embodied energy, because saving carbon now that's embodied energy is a saving now as opposed to over the course of the life of the building, which you may not get a return on for decades. So you can see here in the dark purple, the embodied energy of residential is higher than other building types. So CobBauge is really looking at a residential building type. So CobBauge is building with earth, and it's super simple. As you saw in Stephan's presentation at the start, modern buildings are getting really, really complicated with so many layers to get air tightness, to get insulative value, and then structure. And actually in a timber building, a typical timber wall, the actual amount of timber that's in that wall could be as little as 8%. So with timber construction, you're mainly building with things that aren't timber to try and augment the timber's natural materials. Obviously with something like cross-laminated timber or bridge staple, that would be higher, but then the embodied energy goes up because there's a lot of extra structure there, which strictly speaking doesn't really need to be there. So building with earth has a lot of great inherent properties. As you saw on my last slide, my slides are moving themselves, so I hope you bear with me a little bit. But a huge percentage of the world's population does live in earth buildings, and that's because it's a flexible material, it's everywhere, it's simple, it's easy to repair, it's easy to build with. Traditionally in drier parts of the world for obvious reasons, but there are walls, a whole city in Yemen that is high-rise earth building, and it's stood for centuries. Some of it has stood for almost 1,000 years, and much of that city is still in realistic use. So it's a robust material that is easy to repair, that is low embodied energy, it has lots of great environmental qualities, including for indoor environment. It creates a really healthy environment with no volatile organic compounds from that, because it's simply earth. And you can see the tie-in with UNESCO World Heritage Sites and areas of earth construction, although that's really just areas of human habitation. If you zoom into the UK here, you can see that the UK has a fairly rich history of building with earth, and not a lot in the west of Scotland, where I'm from, where it rains just too much, too often to build with earth. But down in the Interreg area, you can see in the very south of England, there's a huge history of building with earth. And where I am just now in East Anglia, towards the southeast of England, it's traditionally adobe blocks, so that would be pre-made, pre-dried, sun-dried blocks that are put together with a earth mortar. So very, very simple construction. And you can see this is actually council housing in the UK, down in East Anglia, the southeast of England in about 1900, and it dries out those blocks and it creates a building which is, you know, fairly traditionally English looking. There doesn't look to be anything particularly unique or interesting about it, but it is actually made with earth blocks and not with bricks or timber or stone. And this is probably what people in the UK think of when you think of earth building, which is traditional West Country cob with a thatched roof. And then down in France, they traditionally build with Boucher, which is very similar to traditional cob, but with no render, so hence the CobBauge to make the CobBauge project. So it usually has, they actually use that for garden walls and things, and it's often augmented with stone construction as well. So the CobBauge system tries to bring the good qualities of earth. It's structural, it's heavy, it's fireproof, it's got a huge amount of thermal mass. But if you augment the mixture to the one on the left with a much higher rate of fibre, such as flax or hemp, it actually has quite a good insulative value. And then we're able to essentially put together both of these mixtures in a single wall build-up, and it creates the structure and the insulation all within what is essentially one material, albeit two different mixes of the same material. And this becomes a really simple wall build-up because on the inside, which is the heavyweight, a simple clay plaster will finish the wall off, and then on the outside, a traditional lime render will make it waterproof and robust. So there's so few materials in the actual wall build-up that it becomes a simple material to put up, to create, and then at the end of its life, it can essentially be knocked down and left on site. There is no landfill, and in UK, over 60% of landfill comes from the construction industry, and I imagine that's not a dissimilar figure through large areas of Europe. So the U value we get, it's only a 0.3 watts per square meter, but the performance we're hoping will be better than that. So there's a huge amount of testing about different materials to use for our lightweight to get the best insulative value. So there's, yeah, you can see in this hot plate here, a good image to illustrate the different types of mixtures and different effects. So these are all the same thickness and made in the same way, but with different insulating materials. And you can see that there's quite a difference between some of them. So this is some of the machinery that they're using at Plymouth University to test the insulative material and qualities, of that material. So there's, as I say, a huge amount of testing. They made dozens and dozens of blocks, and we got to the numbers we got to. But normally with the performance gap, you would expect buildings to not quite perform as well as the sort of calculated digital twin, which is something else we've been doing to test. But actually in really heavyweight, high thermal mass buildings, they tend to perform a lot better and much closer to their predicted performance. And there even are some papers that suggest that a building like this may outperform its predicted numbers, which is a pretty interesting place to be. But the proof of that will be in an actual building. So the structural aspect of testing has not been overlooked. Again, we have mixed up dozens and dozens of different mixtures to get the absolute strongest cob material, but also with the least amount of shrinkage. So this is the kind of facility we've been using at Plymouth. So we're able to crush and test these samples after making sure that they don't shrink too much. And this is a test block made in some formwork, and you can see the heavyweight CobBauge on the right hand side and the lightweight on the left hand side, and you can see the sort of subtle zigzag pattern that allows them to really bond and interlock, and they do dry together in that pattern. So the shear strength has shown us that there's a very, very good bond between the two different materials, so they are able to act as one. And this is about the height, about 700 millimeters that we would traditionally make. And There's not a huge tradition of formwork with COB, but actually we were able to find handbooks and manuals from over 100 years ago that did actually show there is a tradition of formwork with COB, and they state different thicknesses for different loads, and we have almost started with that, with 100-year-old information to try and really build on that. So this is a pilot building in France. So these are some digital images that were made up to help us understand. And fortunately, one of our partners is a national park in France, so they are able to put up a small structure like this without any planning permission, which in the UK we are very, very jealous of, because planning authority is one of the things that we have struggled to help understand the CobBauge project. So this is a plan of it. So it's a very small single room. Some of the walls are different thicknesses, and almost all of the apertures are quite different. And there'll be a small mezzanine you can see at the top of the plan there. And that's it in section. Again, you can see the little mezzanine and more evident there. And it's a simple monopitch roof to make the CobBauge wall the real learning process in this. So it's actually under construction over in France, and it's been pretty exciting seeing the photos of it. Really dying to get over. So hopefully travel becomes a little bit easier in the new year. So this was at the start of this year. You can see the formwork here. It's actually aluminium with a mesh. And the kind of mixers that we use. So this is for the lightweight COB. So they have fairly different consistencies when they are wet. So you can actually almost pour you can pretty much pour the lightweight COB. So that's a slip that gets poured in with the fibrous material. In this case, it was reed, which was a waste product, which wasn't mature enough to make thatch out of. So it would have usually been burned, actually. So we were able to test it in France. And there's actually a really interesting video on YouTube, which you can find by just searching for CobBauge, because it's such a unique word. So this is one of our French partners, Francois, taking out the lightweight mixture here and then laying it. So you can see the kind of different mixes here more clearly, and it's put in like the photo on the right there, with a small amount of the heavyweight COB put in, and then some of the heavyweight COB, and then the lightweight COB put in almost to match it, and then that helps to form the zigzag pattern that we saw earlier and get that really strong key between the two materials. So this is what a kind of test finished lift looks like. So that was left to dry for a week or so, which is definitely one of the more difficult things with the CobBauge, is that learning when we can take off formwork and it won't deform. And then even though this is now able to self-support its shape, we actually need to wait several weeks before we can put the load of another lift on top of it. But even with a small building like this, that time elapses by simply working around the perimeter of the building. So this is the building now. We're actually kind of sitting on the mezzanine for these photos, and I know they're a little bit hard to understand because the whole floor is covered for construction reasons, but you can see they're highlighted. There are a lot of wires. There's a whole loom of wires coming out filled with sensors to record all the minute details of what's happening with the drying process, which is one of those things that we're really, really interested in. So at Hudson, we've designed several demonstrator projects to figure out what we can and what we can't do with the material. So it has really nice aspirations of the low embodied energy and a really high indoor air quality. The high thermal mass is really great for residential because of the stable temperatures. And you can see here that we've actually put in an extra thick structural wall, spine wall in the middle here. And that makes it structurally more robust, but also it allows us to do things like cut pockets in storage and really maximize the tactile qualities of the material. And we can also gain a lot more thermal mass by having this thick wall, which again is great for internal thermal comfort. So we're thinking ahead about what we can do with CobBauge. Can we learn from the concrete industry? Can we have pre-mixed CobBauge? And actually we're in discussions with a contractor about the idea of that. One of the things about CobBauge is that we hopefully will be able to take earth and dirt essentially from the construction site where the building's being built and augment it with sand or clay or some aggregate. But that may not be possible. The site might be contaminated, so we're looking at being able to bring CobBauge to the site. One of the problems is that it's very heavy, so we're doing life cycle analysis to see if CobBauge is a suitable material for that. But we're also experimenting with prefabricated blocks and how they may go together, although we do think that this is now a project in of itself. So prefabricated blocks like this may become a separate project to CobBauge, but it was still a really interesting way of looking at the material. So these are some prototypes in France just to see how easy it was to move these blocks, and then they're almost 2 metric tons each. But our French partners did an amazing job of being able to stack them up neatly, and they actually were quite square and they worked, although you can see that moving them made this small amount of damage because the material is relatively soft compared to something like concrete. But because it is essentially made out of water, earth, and some fibrous materials, in this case I think it was flax, it's really, really easy to repair. And that goes on to one of those things about the material being robust in that repairing it is very, very simple. Some water, some earth, and some fibers is all you really need. But then we have to think about having to construct buildings out of these. So buildings obviously have holes for windows and for doors. So we were thinking about what sizes of block we would make would work structurally, and how they would work together as a system. But we're also pushing on with looking at earth floors and earth ceilings, looking at pre-stressed hemp lintels, which is something that's really kind of at the forefront of earth construction, of being able to pre-stress earth. Again, learning from the concrete industry is something that we are looking at, and then also looking at smaller pieces and comparing it to other earth blocks, and also looking at perhaps having a timber structure with just the lightweight earth completely encasing it. But it's still fairly early in the CobBauge project, unlike many of the presentations we've seen, which have amazing results already. So you can follow the kind of ongoing events at these following websites. There's also a Twitter hashtag of just #CobBauge, and we at Hudson Architects have a blog documenting what we're doing with CobBauge as well. So I'll hand back to Zia and we can start the Q&A session. And I really look forward to finding out about more of the other projects as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. May I ask you to stay on? I think we lost your video, which is okay if that's what you intended. And Mohi, can you please unmute Lisa Chase? Thanks, Andrew. And may I also ask, please, for Laetitia and Dena to join us. Thank you, Laetitia. So, Andrew, the first question is from Lisa Chase for you. Well, let me stay in order. So the first question was actually for Laetitia. So from Lisa in the United States, she asks, regarding interface, are there any case studies available evaluating the embodied carbon of interface flooring in specific building sites? I am very interested in any operational performance measurements that have been performed in European commercial buildings.
Well, I know that this is very new, and I think the sector is interested in embodied carbon since a year, I would say. I know that in the United States, the interface developed with Microsoft, a tool that can measure the embodied carbon and the carbon emitted by a building It is called the EC3 tools. I don't have any example in Europe. All I can say today, because it's very hard to have figures, because very few manufacturer declares their carbon emissions. So this is why it's hard to have the different figures. But for the structural, well, the embodied carbon is almost the half of the building emissions, as I said, I think previously. And 50% of this embodied carbon comes from the structural work. And then the second work is responsible for 30%. So carpet tile is inside it, but I don't really know the figures today. But I think in a few years we will have it. For example, in France, we're going to have a regulation that will it will be mandatory to calculate the life cycle of the buildings, the new buildings. So we will have, with all the products inside, so we will have these figures in 2 years.
Okay, thank you. And Lisa, jump in if you have anything else. Otherwise,
yes, thank you.
Okay,
oh, thank you. So I'm very familiar with Interface as a company, and very interested to know about the work that they're doing in Europe. I'm currently working on a research dissertation at King's College on European environmental regulations governing the built environment, and so I'm looking at sites to measure their operational energy performance. So that's part of where my question's coming from. So I wonder if you have any information about possibly ongoing embodied carbon assessments, maybe at sites where the Interface product has been installed, where, you know, I'm familiar with the EC3 tool, but I'm very interested in any operational performance measurement that the company might be doing.
Well, for instance, we, as for a building, there is not only a carpet, you have to consider all the products inside it. So
sure.
I don't know what kind of results are you looking for, but for instance, if you have only carpet and I don't know the doors and some stuff, but not everything, it won't be representative of the real emissions that carpet have during the life cycle of the building.
Okay.
Question? Yeah.
Thank you, Lisa.
I'm sorry. And would it be possible to connect with you after the presentation, maybe to talk further about the work you've been doing and maybe share information?
Yeah, of course, yeah. No problem.
Okay, thank you.
Score. Okay, so Lisa's next question, thank you, Laetitia. Lisa's next question is for Andrew. Lisa, do you want to ask directly?
Yeah, so I'm very curious to know, is the CobBauge strategy being used only for new construction or also for renovation projects to improve energy efficiency and insulation?
Well, the CobBauge material is still really new. I think it's only been around for about 2 years or so, kind of from inception. So we're right now at the point we are, as an architectural practice, looking for a client. One of those clients is a renovation on an existing COB building. So it's a fairly sympathetic way to either restore or extend an existing earth building because it's essentially the same material, but it works at a higher rate of performance. So the short answer is no, but watch this space, I think. Right now we're having trouble with our planning authority understanding what CobBauge is.
Oh, okay.
Even though there's a history of building with earth in this area, I think they don't quite understand that it's all earth and not earth with something like an isocyanate board on the outside of the insulation, which has been done before to meet building regs. But this is all new, so kind of holding the hand of the local authority is proving more tiresome than we originally thought.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'm curious, have you done any work with the School for Traditional Arts at the Prince's Foundation? They're very focused on using traditional building materials and strategies to improve energy performance.
No, it's mainly been the University of Plymouth and the Centre for Alternative Technology have been the kind of people we've reached out to and have been working with. But so actually, sorry, could you repeat that? Because I'm going to write it down and contact them. Because
oh yes, I mean, I'd be very happy to connect you if you'd like, because they're helping me with my dissertation research. Yeah, it's the Prince's Foundation, which is headquartered in London, and I think the main headquarters is in London, and it's the School for Traditional Arts. And I'd be very happy to connect you. They do a program at the University of Oxford where they're teaching architects about the building strategies. So that might be a very useful connection for you. Yeah, they've been very helpful for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Either we can connect after this, or if we struggle, if you go into the Hudson Architects website, there's many ways to contact there, and they will get your information to me. Okay, super.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you so much.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, so we will connect. We'll make sure you're connected with Laetitia and Andrew. Thank you for those questions.
Okay, thank you.
So Mohi, if you could please unmute Sylvan Kubicki. Sylvan is a longtime friend of Sustainable Places and an expert in building information modeling from the Luxembourg Institute of Science and Technology. Sylvan and Elena, can I please ask you to also, there we go, perfect, thank you. So Sylvan, if you don't mind, you can go ahead and ask your questions. Andrew, this one is not for you. I'll ask you to join back in afterwards. So if you want to turn off your webcam, that's fine.
Hello.
Sylvan, it's on you. Thanks.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So thank you for the presentation, especially for the whole session, and especially for Dena and Elena, as I found it very interesting and aligned with some of our projects as well. I have a very straightforward question. When I saw all these processes dealing with material extraction, reuse, revalorization, do you foresee any added value in promoting such materials and components as BIM objects? I mean, integrated in a building information modeling workflow and provided, for instance, to architects, engineers as BIM objects. And in a way, I thought it could help closing this the matching of demand and supply that you mentioned, especially in one of the presentation. So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you for the question. I will try to answer first, then we'll leave the stage to Elena. Yes, sure. It is for sure possible and also interesting to have the application case that you are proposing. The solution is thought to be available and usable for different sectors, and also to deal with different kind of information. So the answer is yes, and it is, I'm sure, yes, both for FiberEUse and DigiPrime. I can say, because we are also partner in DigiPrime. So Elena will for sure add something, but the aim of both platforms is to start from as many information as possible and to have them available for different sectors. In FiberEUse, the idea is to correlate the platform, so the management of the data and of the information, to one specific kind of use. So in the case of the FiberEUse project, on a kind of material, which is like the glass or carbon fibers, but it is thought to be available, for example, for the focus on a specific sector. So one of the idea was to try to adopt it, for example, for the construction sector, adding all those information which we have not tested in the project, as the beam, for example, but the system is thought to be expandable and extensible to this kind of information and stakeholders. So the answer is absolutely yes.
Yes, also in the case of DigiPrime, the answer is yes, also because the project started this year. So we identified preliminary actors and type of information that we will integrate in the platform. So obviously, during the development of the service and so on, we will integrate also this type of information. Also because the main points on which DigiPrime is founded are the market acceptability, the interoperability with already existing way to trace, to have the traceability of information, and also the concept of co-creation. So all these aspects will have a beneficial effect if the transfer of data and information will comes from different type of and tools that are used in the different sectors.
Well, okay. Thank you very much for the answers.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks everybody. So now at this point, I'd like to ask all of the presenters to turn on their cameras. And the first question before I get to mine will be from Mohi, our technical moderator from R2M Solution. Mohi has a question for Domenico. So go ahead, Mohi.
Hello, Domenico. Thank you very much for your presentation. My question is about the Nbs solution. I have already been a bit familiar with your project, and I understand that you have a citizen engagement platform. So I would like to know if it has started to work, and if so, what type of data collection method do you use to engage the citizens?
Yeah, okay. Thanks for the question, Moi. You know that in the Nature for Cities platform, we have introduced this tool that is named Citizen Say tool that will help us to engage end users and citizens in the development of Nbs project. The key concept of in Citizen Say tool are two: workflows and modules. A module is defined as an interactive component through which users can interact together. Modules, for example, can be conference calls, surveys, maps, documents that are edited together, this kind of things that are allowed to be done with the tool itself. A workflow is then a sequence of modules so that, for example, a municipality can set up a particular workflow in order to address a particular or specific topic regarding the Nbs solution. Well, this is how the tool works. For now, the platform and in general also the Citizen Say tool is being validated and tested in the 4 pilot sites of the Nature for Cities project that are Milan in Italy, Alcalá de Henares in Spain, then we have Chankaya in Turkey, and also Szeged in Hungary. So basically, we have set up some training courses in order to give this know-how to the technical staff of these municipalities, and in the upcoming months, they will likely use not only the Citizen Say tool, but also the other tools that are included in the Nature for Cities platform. Well, we are in a test phase of the tools, but I see great potential also because often engaging end users and citizens could be very challenging for the municipalities.
Thank you very much, Domenico. Very informative.
You are welcome.
Zia, you're on mute.
Sorry, love that mute button. Okay, so I'm gonna start with my questions. They're mainly about, for the projects, about the commercialization phases and plans and business models. This is my particular expertise. And I'm gonna go ahead in the order of the presenters. At this time, we were supposed to end, so if anyone needs to leave, feel free to jump off the call, but we don't need to end. So I think it's very interesting for everybody if we, if we discuss fruitfully. So starting off with Stephan. It was hard for me to understand what the main commercial offering is. I understand the test bed is open source maybe, and the materials are to be sold commercially. Is that correct? Is there a grouping of materials? There seem to be a lot of different materials you're deploying on the market.
Yes, so thank you for the question, Zia. The testbed is, let's say, a cooperation between these testing facilities and the universities or the researchers, and we are offering this, let's say, service from the first ideas to the market, supporting the SMEs or the inventors of these new products and materials to bring them to the market, and that's our core business we are already doing, but we are still, let's say, developing this further with new tools and techniques and innovations in terms of specification of the material and processing the materials in a new way and simulating the application of the materials.
Okay, so this term may be new to Laetitia, but I know all the rest of you know KER. So these are key exploitable results, and these are the main results of European funded projects. So Stephan, what would be, in your opinion, the main key exploitable result of the project? Is it a platform? Is it the test bed? Is it a set of materials?
It's the cooperation and the knowledge exchange between our between all the partners involved in this. So that's the main exploitable results for us and for the companies, let's say, joining. It's hopefully bringing their products to the market. But basically for us, it's really these need to force or to join the forces and to to keep up with the development in this testing and verification business also.
Yeah, it seems to be a common thread amongst the projects is just connecting the stakeholders, really, to get them in touch, which has been difficult to now, I'm sure. So thank you, Stephan. I will move on to Domenico, who is next. Domenico, so the Nature for Cities platform, it's not live yet, correct? When will it go live? Will it be free to use? Who manages it? Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Zia. Well, we are in a testing phase of the platform, and hopefully the platform will be online at the beginning of the next year, after the validation of the test phase, basically. Well, we have started to think about the business model that can be associated with the Nature for Cities platform. And basically, a first option could be that a freemium business model could be more appropriate at the moment. What this means, the Nature for Cities platform will be offered free of charge online, with with the possibility to run some basic simulation. So the possibility to have the validation of the Nbs project that we would apply in specific city. Then you have to see the Nature for Cities platform as a sort of bridge between the end users, the customers, and the IP owner. And with IP owner, I mean the owner or the tools that are included in the platform. So if the customers need a more detailed analysis, they can contact directly the IP owner, so the specific software developer, and ask for consultancy services, basically.
Okay, great, thank you. So this next question is for Laetitia, and Laetitia, I have a couple questions for you. I'm gonna go ahead and make you the presenter because there's one slide I wanted to reference, if you don't mind. It's the one with your partner logos.
Yeah.
And if we can pull that up, I remember Trek was one of them. They were very interesting.
Yeah,
so,
this is the, hold on.
Go ahead.
This is the plastic, Next Wave Plastic, isn't it? Partnership.
Yeah, the partnerships. And I'll tell you why I asked, because as background, these European funded projects, most of them are looking to put something onto the market. And to do that, these projects deliberately group together public institutions, SMEs, and lots of different stakeholder profiles in order to hopefully eventually bring something to the market. And so for us, for our, two examples from our company, R2M, which stands for Research to Market, is building integrated photovoltaic glass from Onyx Solar, a Spanish manufacturer, and we resell their glass in Italy and France. And another example would be a service robot for dementia, people with dementia, and we also resell those robots in Italy and France. So this would be a common model for European funded projects reaching the market. And do you have any, I understand you're a manufacturer and you have suppliers of the raw materials, but do you use any resellers to reach regions? And can you speak a little bit about these partners?
To reach, sorry.
Can you speak a little bit about these partners here, what their roles are with you? HP and Herman Miller.
Yeah, well, together we are working together to find ways, as I said, to divert plastics to end up in oceans, and also to take back the plastics from oceans. It is to say that, for example, Dell have I don't know how you call that. The box of the computer is made of recycled plastic from ocean. I know that IKEA is manufacturing some furniture with it. For example, I think, if I remember well, Trek has a backpack made of plastic from oceans. And hopefully, if I remember well, Boucher did skateboards, I think, with that kind of material. Does this answer the question?
No, sorry, please. Okay, well, I think my main question is, do you do all the sales and distribution internally, or do you work with partners for that?
You mean for the product that will be?
Yeah, the carpet tiles to sell the carpet tiles.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, we work with installers and distributors because it's for commercial. Most of it are for commercial offices, for example. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, so before I continue on, Mohi, can you unmute Tom Flynn? Actually, he didn't give permission, but I'll ask his question, and if he wants to jump in, he can. So this one's for Domenico. What is the biggest obstacle that you face at present? And are you of the opinion that the obstacle is common to others?
Yeah. Well, the main obstacles that we have faced so far with the project is the integration altogether of different tools, selection of KPIs and so on. Because Natural for City project basically would like to make the platform, but in order to do it, we are going to use existing tools that are already on the market, such as, for example, GreenPass or Kunudi tool, but also other tools that have been developed within the Natural for Cities project framework activity. Moreover, we should give to the designers, urban planners, the possibility to implement and input inside the platform additional information that came from additional services. So that for this reason, we have included in the platform the possibility, for example, to include information that comes from drone surveys or satellite imagery analysis that can be used for assessing the key performance indicators and the impact. The problem is that the world of the NBS is very, very big. And so you have to define a good boundary in order to not get lost around. But with experts, with the help of experts and know-how, we have faced this problem, and I think that the platform is a good example because we have faced this problem and also find a solution for this. I invite you to keep in touch with us, with R2M and with the Natural for City project, because very soon the platform will be delivered for free online, and you will have the possibility to play with it. And I think this also could be another stage, another phase to improve the platform itself, because at the moment we get the feedback from the municipalities that are joining the project. But when the platform will be spread out in a more wide way, we can have the opportunity to get the feedback from you all and improve much more it. And of course, this will help also to release services, consulting services, and that are associated with the platform, basically. I hope to have answered your questions.
Thank you. Hopefully Tom is satisfied. I'm not sure if he's off mute, but I will just move on and he can jump in if he needs to. So my next question is for Dena. I was unclear.
Sorry, Zia.
Please.
Tom is on mute in case he wants to say anything.
Sorry, I don't. Sorry, Rob, can you hear me this end?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, look, so delighted. Look, thank you very much. I think your points are very valid. I think the key to this is user acceptance, and the user acceptance level. If it's not brought to the foreground, then the technological side of it is going to struggle an awful lot. So I think the earlier you get the user involvement in it, the stronger. And you must continue to check is it working, almost like an agile approach. And I think that's one of the things we overlook all the time. Technology dominates. No, it's not. It's the users. So you gotta meet the market need, and that to me I think is a common problem we're having right across all these kind of projects. Just to run it by you. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah,
I'm glad to keep in contact with you. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll definitely connect everybody who wants to be connected. Thank you, Tom. So Dena, I was unclear about the difference between the Idea Manager platform and the ecosystem management platform. Can you clarify the difference?
Sure. Well, the Idea Manager is related to the first part of the creation of a new object process. So this means that it is related to the well, it is more useful for the co-creation of new objects and new things or new processes. So it is related to the design. It means you need to cover a need, or you need to create something to create a connection, or you know that you have an object and you have to recycle it, or you have to reuse it. You don't know how to use it, so you ask to the community, you ask to all the stakeholders, I have an idea, or I have a need, or I need a feedback or something like that. Please give me your information, give me your feedbacks. So it is something like a table, a round table where it is possible to get in contact with all the stakeholders and to share ideas and minds.
And do you also, sorry, go ahead.
On the other side, the platform is to create the ecosystem and to really create connections. So the idea is to use a place, which is an IT platform, but which is the virtual the virtual representation of what happens in the real world. So following the ecosystem management platform, you will have objects which are moving across Europe doing things.
I see. And it seems that the I don't know if it's a prototype that you showed a demonstration of. It seems rather advanced, and I believe the project recently started. Is this something that is being carried over from a previous project or from a partner's capacity that's being improved through the project?
Well, the Idea Manager is something which was coming from another project previously, but just the concept was coming from another project. Then we have completed it and tested it in FiberEUse, but we have ended the adoption quite 1 year ago. So it is completed, and it is perfectly working at the moment. The other one, the platform, had been thought for the first time during FiberEUse, and what you see is a working. Well, the TRL is still low because we are starting with the adoption now, but it is not a mock-up, it is a working platform. So we are starting using it in the reality, and it had been thought for this project, so it is the first iteration of it.
And do you envision a freemium business model as well, or something different?
Well, we have 3 different proposals of business models, which we are discussing internally during these months. And the idea is to use the adoption with the pilots also to validate the business models. Then we will end the project with a clearer idea of what could work.
Yeah, perfect. That sounds great. Very interesting stuff. Okay, thanks, Dena. My next question is for Elena. Elena, also I'm interested in the business model, but I was really impressed to see that the calls have so much funding potential. Who is the funding source?
Who is, sorry, I didn't catch the
source of the funding.
Yeah,
Not
it
for the
was
project, but for the open calls.
yeah, the open calls, the 2 millions of the open calls were related to the original funding of the call. So from these, the initial 16 millions for the project, 2 was dedicated to the open calls. So from the Horizon 2020 project program.
And also, have you begun discussing business models for the platform?
Yeah, the project obviously is already started, and we are still in the phases of the development of the general architecture and the different services. So the initial idea for the platform is that it wants to facilitate the interaction between the different actors, but it not intervenes in this interaction that are direct from the stakeholders. So there will be different incentives and business agreements according to the specific roles of the stakeholders, because we have too many different partners for the ICT development, for the services, the final users, and the idea is also to have an open platform. So if anyone wants to add a service, somehow it will be integrated in the platform. It wants not to be closed, but something that could be used in the different value chain, in the different sector, and so on. So obviously we don't have a precise business model till now, but the general idea is that.
Great, thank you. Okay, thanks. I have a few quick questions for Andrew, and then I'll just close with one general question for everybody, just to get their opinion. So Andrew, very interesting. First of all, I'm unfamiliar with the concept of Earth houses, and it seems fascinating. So, first of all, is there any role of IT or ICT in the project, or is it all just materials based?
I think the role for ICT is validation to prove that this thing will work. So you could see the huge array of sensors that were in the sort of pilot project. There's going to be a huge amount of data crunching from our experts, and we actually have a project partner, ESTIC, who's a kind of master's level and above institution, who I think will be getting a lot of their master's students to do a lot of the work for us. And hopefully they'll get quite exciting projects out of it. Also having consistency between the sensors and arrays between the projects in England and the projects in France, a really key thing to making this a validated way of making something. But there will also be a lot of digital twinning to make sure that in future we could essentially assess projects before they are on site. And a lot of this is because the UK as a whole is really scared of new things, especially in the built environment. I'm often kind of pointing at things in Europe to say, why can't we be more like this? But then my country decides that they don't want to be in Europe anymore instead. So it can be an uphill battle sometimes to try and kind of win people over, and there'll be definitely a kind of huge data mining and digital twinning operation to really sell this as a viable construction method. So I think instead of doing what traditionally would happen and digitizing it first and testing it and then making something, part of what we're doing actually is making something and then working back to make sure we can validate a digital version.
Cool, very cool. Okay, so my last question before I transition to the general question for everybody is, do you know what is like the region or the country with the highest share of Earth buildings? You gave some great examples, and I had never seen anything like that.
it will definitely be kind of continental Africa, just because of the type of facilities and things there and the kind of nature of the populations there. I mainly looked at world techniques to try and lift inspiration from, rather than kind of outright numbers. But the city in Yemen, whose name always escapes me, is a really amazing place. And if Yemen was a little bit safer for some tourism, I would be over there in a heartbeat.
Great, thank you. Okay, so now I'm going to transition to the final general question for everybody. And before I do, I'll start with you, because it's basically the idea is I think we all understand that being green or being sustainable typically costs more in the beginning, whether it's materials or raising awareness. There's generally a higher cost that needs to be offset somehow. So Andrew, maybe, I don't know, I'm sure it's not in the case of rent to the inhabitants, but just in general, if Andrew can start and then everyone else can share their experience on how those sustainability additional costs are dealt with within your solutions.
Yeah, so the cost is a huge elephant in the room for CobBauge, because the amount of labour required to sort of hand lay all of this heavy material, and then it also takes weeks to dry, is a really big issue. So cost is something that we're kind of right now doing some exercises on. So we quite lucky to have a PhD student on board over in France. So he's been recording and logging the amount of time that the contractors have been spending building the French prototype. Part of the problem is that we're also learning as we go. So it's not like an efficient building site would normally be. There's definitely going to be a cost impact in building with CobBauge, and in fact, part of the of our funding is to essentially offset the extra money that building in CobBauge for a client will be. And for us, it's probably looking at something like a 10% minimum, but probably more realistically up to 35%. That's partly because it's such a new way of building, partly because it's so intense, and that's part of the reason we're actually looking at prefabrication right now, because we think we might be able to offset a lot of time on site, and that raises a lot of uncertainty. And actually, when we got a quantity surveyor to talk about costs on board, I think they added something like a 1/3 cost, so essentially a 50% increase on cost, essentially just as risk money. So cost is a big, scary elephant in the room for us right now, but I guess fortunately we're at an early enough stage and we are addressing it that hopefully we can sort it. And it could be that something like CobBauge lends itself more to self-builders, so someone who is able to build their own house, but also with the amount of drying time and the amount of downtime on site, they would actually be able to keep a full-time job. So it may be that with the time and cost calculations that CobBauge becomes more of a niche product, but we're unsure at the moment.
Okay, great, thank you. So I'm just going to move clockwise from what I see on my screen, which Laetitia brings you up next. If you can just say a few words on how becoming more sustainable through the Mission Zero project has impacted the costs of manufacturing or marketing or things like this.
Well, for us as Mission Zero was more reducing our waste and any kind of waste. Very quickly, we had a return on investment. It is to say that in 12 years of Mission Zero, we doubled our profit and our sales grow by 2/3. So it was really at that time a good move, because very quickly we take back our investments. And today it gives us space to invest again in new products. As I said, it's a huge investment that we've just done to be able to manufacture carbon negative products. And we know that, for instance, indeed it is cost, but when you are looking where we are going, if we want to target the neutrality in buildings and everywhere, I think it's just the right move to do. So I'm sure that in a few years we will have the return on investment again. So, well, for us, it's not really a lot of cost, but this is true that at the beginning it's always.
Very, very impressive product and presentation. Thank you. So for the last three, Elena, Dena, and Domenico, it seems the three of you have a pretty similar solution. It's a multi-stakeholder platform, and dealing with value chains and ideas. So if the three of you would like to say anything about cost or how that's impacted the penetration of the solution or the awareness, feel free. If not, no obligation, but it's it's very interesting to see how different approaches can be learned from or implemented.
Yes, I can start, Zia. Well, cost is always a problem when we do something. But anyway, I think that for many years we have pointed on gray infrastructure, and it is the time to turn back to green infrastructure. So if we look in this way, the cost that we are going to pay to do, for example, an Nbs in an urban area, at the beginning it could seem to be very much, but if we look at it with more time and along the time, I think that every cost that will have benefit for quality of life of citizens and inhabitants is a good spend, basically. And well, anyway, when you do a project, you have to balance the cost and the benefit, and we do this with the Nature for Cities platform. Indeed, it is included a specific tool that is named N-Benefit, which aims just to make this balance between socio-economical benefit and the cost of the Nbs application in urban area. It is always a balance between them, but I think that considering the urban challenges, the pandemic situation that we are facing, the necessity to have more green space for citizens, we have to spend this money for green solution.
Agreed. Elena or Dena, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, in my experience that goes also beyond the construction sector, I think that the traditional approach was to produce something and then the end of life, the problem, the issues was something postponed, was something far away from the manufacturing process. And obviously this at the end led to this situation in which we don't have information, we don't have a planning to solve all these problems. And obviously at the moment this represents a cost, because the transition towards sustainability implies something that was not thought at the beginning. But I think that with all these projects, all these activities in which we talk about data sharing or co-design, redesign, decision support system in order to understand what is the best strategies for the reuse, for the remanufacturing, for the recycling, this gap, and in a future, I hope in a near future, reduce the costs that are necessary to make this transition. Also because we have not standardized processes or procedures to approach this problem, and but in future with a more awareness on this topic and the growing attention to climate change, sustainability, and so on, we will thought at the beginning to the whole life of product and processes, and we will reduce also these costs.
Great, thanks. Dena, would you like to end us off here?
Yes, just adding a bit to what the others has correctly said, which I totally agree. And the bit which I can add is that another part of the cost which can be reduced using the correct exchange of information is the creation of awareness. Because every time you have to create something new, or you have to understand if you have to put something in the landfill, or if you have some boundaries, or if you have legislations barriers, or if you want to create something new, you will use a lot of time to search on internet, or to get in contact with companies, or to go to fairs, and it is very hard to collect the information you need. If you have everything in one place, it is easier. You will reach the information in a very quicker way, so you will need less time, and always time means cost. So that is just another variable to be considered.
Wonderful. Thank you, everybody, very, very much. At this point, oh, go ahead, Andrew.
I just add one thing. It's just to say that it's amazing how a little bit of the right legislation can make things all of a sudden financially viable. And I think the French municipal building legislation that was put out, I think late last year. So I think from 2022, all French public buildings need to be made from 50% wood or recycled materials. And all of a sudden, well, that's now what it costs, and everyone's in the same playing field, and that's a huge improvement for biomaterials. So I think government has a role to play, but awareness is also a huge thing of it we can be helpful with.
Yeah, great point. Let's go subsidies. Hooray. All right, so thanks everybody. We shall close here. It was very interesting for me, at least. I hope our audience felt the same. And we will connect everybody's dots. Whoever wants to be connected, just send us an email at sustainableplaces@r2msolution.com if you need to. And thanks very much. Have a great evening, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.